Hi everyone. Hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Maureen. Welcome to the meeting. I hope everyone is fine this morning. I can see everyone has joined the meeting. Mr. Apollo is muted. Just a minute. Oh yeah, he's in. Japheth, you're muted. Yes, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me right now.
Yes, we can hear you, Maureen.
Yes, so let's start by introducing ourselves. I'm going to start with Noah. Noah, who is my co-host. Kindly introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. My name is Noah Kitkemboy. I'm a broadcast journalist with Standard Group Media on the economy desk. So basically we deal with business stories. And my passion is telling stories about small businesses. I believe that is what is running our economy. And it's essential to explore those businesses and understand that dynamic. So seeing financial institutions here and people on the technology front, I think it's very important because everyone needs to be part of the conversation if we are to move forward. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you so much, Noah. Good to have you this morning. Next, we're going to have Eric.
Thank you very much, Maureen and the team. My name's Eric Bayugi. I'm the founder and CEO of Malipo Circles. At Malipo, we are very passionate about the idea of people coming together to achieve their goals. And our core belief is that if we can empower this group with financial tools, with accounting and financial management tools that they cannot afford now, or that they don't have mostly informally, is we can unlock a lot of potentials in this kind of groups and based on the kind of money that they keep already. So that's our main goal. And that's why we're looking for partners who will enable us to achieve that dreams. Hence our partnership with Faulu on this webinar. And we hope we can be able to talk more as we continue on this. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Japheth Ochieng from Faulu Bank.
Thank you very much, Maureen. My name is Japheth Ochieng. I'm the head of business growth at Faulu Bank. We handle a number of Chamas and group business. That's our bread and butter in the bank. So we are really passionate to service that particular area. But I'm also here with my boss, Apollo, and he will also introduce himself. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Apollo Njoroge, the CEO and MD for the bank.
Yes, thank you so much. We are really humbled and delighted with this webinar, and we really look forward to engaging with the members and just the viewers to really bring a good understanding of what it is that we do. My name is Apollo Njoroge, as you've heard, and I'm really glad to be a part of this webinar, and I look forward to some very good engagement with your team. Over to you, Maureen.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Maureen. I'm your host this morning. I'm the CEO and also the founder of the Edge Solutions Consultancy. We are glad that you're here with us. We are honored to have you here in the meeting as we discuss this topic of how Chamas are changing the saving culture in Kenya. And thank you for coming. And thank you everyone for showing up. I'm going to play a short video that introduces the topic. Noah, hi Noah. Noah, can you hear me? Noah? Noah?
Yes.
Oh. You can introduce the topic with
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone who's very much, Maureen, for this opportunity, and taking time on your Saturday to discuss matters finances, especially Chamas. I think it's something commendable. If you've grown up in a setup that I grew up in a local village, then you understand the importance of Chamas and how our moms use this tool to do a lot of things, even take some of us to school. And that is one of the issues that we're going to be discussing, how Chamas are changing the saving culture in Kenya. Because when you look at the formal banking sector, the saving numbers are not very encouraging. Yeah. And when you look at the classification of Chamas in our financial structure as a nation, Chamas have always been categorized as informal. So what we're going to do, I think it's look back where we're coming from, the history of Chamas. How did they begin shortly, so that we understand where we are coming from and where we are heading at the end of the day. So I'm really glad to engage in this particular topic. I don't know whether we can jump straight into the questions for it.
Yes, I wanted to play a short video.
Okay.
It's not ready yet. We can go ahead and ask some questions.
Okay, lovely.
Yes.
So I think in every conversation, we can't assume that everyone understands what Chamas are. Okay. It's a concept that is very simple, people coming together and pooling resources. And for one way or another, they support each other. So maybe starting with Mr. Apollo, where are we coming from? What was the origin of Chamas? How did they come together, and how have they morphed into what we see today and what we call Chamas today?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You can hear me well, I hope.
Yes.
It's very unique when you talk about Chamas, because 3 out of every 5 Kenyans are part of a Chama group. And that is one of the most phenomenal things that, so it means Chamas are so much a part of the DNA of this country. In fact, if you have to step back even before you talk about Faulu, is as you have said, in the villages, the roscas and the merry-go-rounds, those were always a part of us, where the women came together, helped every time they came to meet, they contributed some little money to work together, and every time they met, this money was given to one person. So there's a sense in which Chamas have actually been a part of us, and it's a good thing that now Faulu saw that opportunity, and indeed the foundation on which Faulu is built is around Chamas. And what do I mean when I say that? It means that what happened is as food for the hungry, Faulu was started about 25 years ago, by an NGO called Food for the Hungry. And they used to actually go to Madare to give people foodstuffs for free. And the women then came together. By coincidence or otherwise, these were small groupings of women who would come together. And as they got this money, they decided that why don't we go and buy some foodstuffs, sell it, make a profit, give it back to these people who otherwise would give them food every other Monday. And therein, the Chama story in Faulu began. That is how it began. That the women groups, after they made some money, this money was lent to the next group and the next group. And before we knew it, the 500 billion fund was created, that then created the foundation on which what we need Chamas today began. So maybe I can pause there for now, and or do I can I continue elaborating? Can I build up this? Can I pause there?
You can continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can continue.
Then, as a result of that, then the bank continued to grow, and those 500 million that had been injected into the bank, and now this 500 million pool of funds, then is money that the bank was then able to put together, and and allow the groups to have, so the concept, there's a deposit, just like the way the women in the village would meet and make some contributions. They came together and started open savings accounts. And out of those savings accounts, they started building the small deposit. And what is unique in Faulu is that we allow these groupings then to access funds, and we do even up to 4 times what they have contributed in those accounts after they've been able to run the savings accounts for a period of 3 to 6 months. We always make the pricing on this kind of facilities very competitive to allow the members to be able to benefit from them. But I must say, as we have progressed, the whole Chama concept has grown from that small groupings of the women who meet in the small groups to affluent, what I would literally call the high net worth individuals, who then now have come together, and the Chama concept has significantly transformed to be a small group of people coming to borrow 100,000, 300, 500,000, to people who can borrow huge amounts of money to buy properties and build them up and be able to leverage that. So there's a sense in which technology has also played a big part in helping the whole Chama concept to take deep root in the bank, because now our customers are able to use, because of the way we've integrated the core banking system with the various telcos, our customers are able to pull out this. They don't have to physically meet as they used to. We are now able to circulate. They're able to share this money between them. They can use, they can pick their phones, be able to put in their deposits. They're able to access the balances in those accounts, and they're able to. We are able to offer them digital loans. They no longer need to go around looking for each other to append signatures on pieces of paper, but we are able to provide that on a digital platform that we've created. So at a high level, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much.
That is quite incredible.
Yes, it is. Eric, you can kindly introduce what you do with Malipo.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for the kind introduction, Mr. Apollo. And I'm glad that Mr. Apollo has brought in the concept of Chamas and how it has been used to create wealth over a period of time. And I think that is some of the things that we are trying to demystify as Malipo, because a lot of the time Chamas have been thought to be small informal groups that cannot create wealth. But every day we're now seeing stories from Faulu to Equity to Transcentury of humble beginnings that have created big organizations that we have today. And at Malipo, I think that is the core of what we realized. And then we asked ourselves questions that what then makes these Chamas, and most of them, because we realized that almost 80% of Chamas close once they start within the first 6 months. So those are the questions that we asked ourselves, that how can we then bring these Chamas into a platform that makes them last longer so that we can have more Faulus and more Equities and more Transcenturies from these humble beginnings. So that's the whole idea of Malipo. So what Malipo realizes is that when all the big banks and the big systems can be able to get core banking systems that Apollo has been talking about, and accounting systems that helps them manage finances transparently, access to funds, access to loans, and basically build the core of what makes a platform works. And that is transparency within a Chama, ease of decision-making, ease of access to funds. So that's why we built Malipo. Therefore, what Malipo does, it makes it extremely easy to start your Chama as a group of people, form together whatever numbers you are, set your own rules as a Chama. How much monthly contributions do you want to make? Do you want to give each other loans or not? If it's on credit, what interest do you give each other? It's all that comes on the platform, and all that is automated for you to get started and run. And that is without having to change your bank accounts, if you have a bank account or not. If you bank at Faulu, good. Whatever bank you are at, you can connect the system to your bank account and have all that running on the same system. And then we now have partners who can then give you credit on the platform, just as Mr. Paul has already talked about. So that's the whole idea of why we created Malipo. We'll also bring in the welfare side of it to be able to help you in terms of any difficulties that you have, or one member or celebration, anything that comes in as a Chama, because the whole idea of a Chama is for you guys to come together, help each other, grow together in terms of wealth, and just looking out for each other. So yes, that's a brief description of Malipo that I'll give.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric, for that introduction of Malipo. So we can jump into questions. Another question. You can jump. Onto another question, Noah.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation that I'm getting, I think.
Ask, you can get, sorry. You can get questions and ask Apollo one question for the questions that you have.
Yeah, so Maureen, thank you. I think there needs to be sort of a journey, yeah? And when you talk about exponential growth of Chamas, it's incredible how today Chamas are really big. The big question is, somebody is tuned into this. They have just started off a group of 10 young people or 20 women. We know maybe our mom belongs in some setup. The question is, what does it take to transition? Do these Chamas have to take to see this growth and to achieve what we've seen, Faulu achieve at the end of the day?
Sorry, Noah, we didn't get your question well. Your network was a bit shaky.
Oh,
yes, sorry. Sorry.
I hope.
Hello? Noah? Noah, we can't get you clearly.
Network is a little bit shaky. But now, am I audible enough?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. We're having a little bit of
the questions.
Yeah, lapse here. But my question was.
Sorry for that.
Yeah, it's okay. So my question was, we've really skipped a journey, which I think Mr. Apollo tried to summarize it initially. But the question is, for those in small setups right now, somebody is in a small Chama, and they are seeing the achievement of these big Chamas, formidable Chamas, what Mr. Apollo spoke about earlier on. What steps can these small Chamas take to grow into that big Chama that is stronger, more formidable, and more impactful to the society and the lives of the members?
Well, thank you very much. And I like that question very much. And in fact, small, we should even ask ourselves, what really is small? And we have kind of crafted products that then help address the very challenge that you're talking about, where our Chama, or what we call our Faulu Chama account, it allows at least a minimum of 5 members to come together, which is typically what you're describing to me. And then these 5 members, they come and open an account with a minimum of just 2,000 shillings. So again, divide by the 5 members, you can see it's a member just looking for 400 shillings. And when they're able to do that, they're able to actually form a group that then we are able to really, really support. These groups, we then allow, it's a very, very interesting journey, because we allow them first to create a culture of saving, because one of the things we must emphasize a lot in our conversation this morning is that wealth is created from savings, that you must first learn how to put aside some money, and it's out of that money that you can then be able to create a way of creating a growing effect or an opportunity to be able to grow that amount and to make it possible for people to continue to grow. So what we do is that these groups, after we allow them to come and put together as little as 2,000 shillings, within a period of 6 months, this group will have contributed. If they're doing 2,000, they already have 12,000 shillings. And the first small loan that we give them is a loan of 50,000 shillings. 50,000 shillings is a lot of money. And what I must say is that for the Chama movement to take root is that we must never despise humble beginnings. A lot of times people see the end product of big companies or big successes, but they never see the humble beginnings that 50,000 shillings can do. 50,000 shillings can set up a hatchery of chicken, and that hatchery can become a foundation on which greatness is built. You know, if I could just give the example of, you know, this farm that you see called the Mogoko farm in Kikuyu. Mogoko farm, I don't know, even many of you here may not even know that those are the owners of there's that huge building you see, former Standard Chartered building in town, where the head office used to be. They own that building. They own the waterfront. You know, when you say waterfront and Chama, you think they're not related. They're completely related. But that whole effort came out of a hatchery. Mogoko Farm, they became one of the biggest shareholders in bank like equity, and today it's a different story. We can give many examples, and I said we understand that as we come here to discuss Chamas, we're not coming to talk about a marginalized group of people, but we're actually talking about people like you and I who can create opportunities and create a lot of wealth for people in our own villages, people within our own influences. And that is really what I believe this morning is about. So we go ahead and give them these small loans initially of 50,000 shillings. But remember, the key thing I'm emphasizing is that we expect them to continue in the savings culture. As they continue building a savings culture, they're able to service the loans. And remember, the 50,000 that we have given them is now able to, as the chicks grow and the chicken grow, I'll just pick that as a simple example. They're able to go and sell those at phenomenal profits. And I've just given you one extreme of someone who used to sell chicken, go to city market, sell them, and today is a different story. Nairobi today, if we talk about, assuming you're talking about Nairobi, if you look at Githurai, Kayole, Rongai, all those are ideal places to set up groups, and because of the populations that live in those places, anything that is, especially is food related, you are sure that you cannot go wrong. The other thing we encourage the Chamas is to begin to register themselves so that they cannot be able to go out and even try and get LPOs, and so they can get LPOs from the county governments, and when they bring these LPOs to the bank, we are able to give them financing so that they're able to do the work, and when they are paid, of course they retain the profits, and we ensure that the way we structure the loans, the repayment periods are up to 72 months. 72 months is a very deliberate period of 6 years to allow them ample time to make money, plow it back into the business, and continue to grow it. And I'm sure as we are doing this, we are doing the maths in your mind. You took 50,000 shillings, you went and sold chicken, made 100,000, you kept 50K, you continued growing. And as you do 3 or 4 LPOs, you find that a group that just started with 50,000 shillings is now talking about 1 million shillings, if not 500,000 shillings. That group, if it's consistent and within a period of years, they would have accumulated enough savings to be able to buy a property, a plot. One of the things many of us may not know, that in this country, the average age at which a person gets what is called a title document takes almost 35 years. That is the last research that was done. Kenyans take, when they are around 35 years old, that they have a logbook, that's when they have a title. That's an average. Of course, the statistic is distorted within towns. But then it tells you that because having a collateral plays a big part in helping the Chamas then move to the next level, where they're able now to buy a van, where they're able to buy some vans that can do transportation, buses, and on and on. I can go on and on. And I can give you examples of some Chamas that we have formed that were able to buy a bus. These are women who buy a bus that then start flying the Kisumu-Nairobi route. And within a period of 4 or 5 years after they paid, they have 2 buses, they have 3 buses. And I think the limit is really the ambition that the group has. So I can pose the answer. And that is at the lower end. But I've also talked about Chamas today, where members now are much more affluent. They have grown a lot. Every time they meet, each one of them capacity to contribute 100, 1,000 shillings, and there are 10 of them. So each time they meet, you can imagine they're able to raise 1 million shillings. A Chama like that, within 1 year, they're able to put together 12 million shillings. Now, who own big buildings, some of the ones that some of the buildings that are right next to us. I can give an example without prejudice. A building like Jadala that is right next to office in Faulu is owned by a Chama. And I'm sure you have many more examples. But I think this conversation encompasses all of us. This is not a conversation for the marginalized or the people who don't have money. This is a conversation that is relevant to all of us, whatever levels of life we are at.
Wow, that is incredible. And one of the pointers that you've made is that, wealth is created from the discipline of saving. Now, bringing in Mr. Oyugi, we understand at this age and time, especially with the, growth of, internet-backed financial solutions, in Kenya, that conversation has not been really positive because, on top of our head, we think about, applications to borrow money. And you find on average, as a country, people borrow close to 2.5. That is just on Fuliza alone. We haven't put even, 2.5 billion, right? We haven't put in the loan application. So technology, in one way, it is propagating this culture of too much borrowing. But today, we are talking about saving culture. How do we start turning this conversation around to see that technology is now being used to encourage people to save money more than just borrow money?
I think the idea of access to money and capital, as Apollo has said before, and as what I really want to reiterate, is the idea of how do you build wealth. And there's a lot of emphasis that wealth is actually built through savings. And there's a story that one of my friends keeps telling me about the idea of how do you create wealth both for an individual and economy. So you have this gentleman who lives on an island, and for him to get food, he has to go and jump in a salty water lake, catch a fish that he's able to go eat for the day. So he sits down and starts to wonder about how miserable his life is at that point. So he decides one day that I have to take a risk and think, how do I make my life better? So he goes and takes a branch, sharpens it. For a day, he does not go to fish, so he sleeps hungry. That is the risk that he takes in his life. He does not know if the idea is going to work or not. But for sleeping hungry on that day, the next day he goes, he does not need to jump into the salty water. His eyes don't need to burn. He's able to see the water. He uses the spear, as he now calls it, and catches 2 fish for that day. That's a growth of 100% that has just happened by having what you call a capital tool. So how does that then grow? So it means he can now decide that I'll now go and fish maybe once every 2 days because he has 2 fish, or he can fish every day and have excess, which he can then sell. So what you're trying to build with Malipo is a capital tool, which is a very important part in wealth creation. How do you find things that accelerate the process for you to make wealth? The process for you to start from savings, which is the fish that he was now able to catch and not consume, and then have a tool that enables you to catch more and more fish that you can decide to go and sell. So that is that's the whole idea of where then Malipo is and how we try to spin the idea of using technology to then be a savings tool that also serves the role of growing your wealth. So as you said there are different types of chamas, and these chamas do different things. So we've talked about savings, but we've also talked chamas that actually also lend to each other to be able to grow the savings that they have. So how do you give them tools that enable them to automate that process and let that wealth be within them rather than for consumption, where you take a loan as an individual, go and spend it out, and it doesn't grow your wealth and it doesn't grow the wealth of the chama at the same time. So that's the kind of discussion that we are trying to spin and we are trying to change, and to make sure that there's cheap credit that you can access within yourselves, because each of you can make a saving onto the platform and be able to lend each other. And in that case, you're now growing your own capital base that you can use to do anything else, instead of having to go and borrow money from somewhere else, which is expensive loan, as you've talked about the Fulizas and all the other forms of credit that you want to talk on the mobile apps. So we want to change the idea of thinking of mobile apps just being loaning apps, where people just go and get credit for consumption because it's easy to access, to a way to then have a savings and a credit culture that grows wealth instead of depreciating it off your pocket. So yeah, we try to achieve that with Malipo, and that's the whole idea of what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Eric. So I have one question for you. What inspired you to start Malipo app, the Malipo app?
The inspiration behind Malipo, as I've said before, has a lot to do with how I grew up personally is a lot of my fees was actually paid through the idea of Chamas. My mom was in a Chama where they did their business, and every Friday they put out some cash. That grew her capital to be able to grow a business, but that also made sure that I got educated and got to go to school. That inspired me a lot from a very early age. As I grew up, of course, as friends, we also started the same thing. We said, why can we put money together? Then what do you want to do with this money? Think of an investment. Where can you put it? And all those ideas came in where you were like, okay, this Chama thing actually works. But what are the challenges that we have in actually building this? Okay, you open a bank account, then there's lack of transparency in each other. It needs one person who is extremely dedicated to drive the team to make continuous savings. It's extremely hard to make decisions about where to invest this cash. So those were some of the challenges that we saw, and I thought, wow, I think if we can be able to sort this kind of issues, the issues of trust, accounting, basically the digital bookkeeping side that comes with it, where one person has to be, it's almost a full-time job for an individual who is the treasurer, who is now the anchor of the Chama. And nobody pays them for doing that work.
Yes.
So what if we automated all these things that come with a Chama, and therefore make them focus on what's important, and that's growing capital, growing their wealth as people come together.
Wow. Thank you, Eric. The issue of Chamas is very interesting because it happens that more Kenyans are saving in Chamas than they are saving in the banks. Chamas in Kenya, about 41% of Kenyans they save in Chamas. I have a question for Apollo. What has he's muted. I don't know whether you can hear me. Noah?
Yes, we can get you clearly.
Okay, let me just, before Apollo unmutes himself, let's ask Eric another question. Eric, some people have been asking questions, and they have been asking, how accessible is Malipo app?
So Malipo is on the Play Store, so anyone can go and download it at any given time, even now. You set up you basically download the app, register, set up your Chama, invite your members, whatever rules you guys have a Chama, you set them up. And that's how quick it is to get started with a Chama now. The easiest way to create and start running a Chama right on your phone.
Okay, someone is asking, how do we join how do my members join the Malipo app?
So once you set up your Chama, once you set up your Chama, Malipo has an invite feature where you then invite all members of your Chama to join you. So once they accept, they become members of your Chama.
Okay, I know you can go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Mr. Apollo has not yet come back, but I was just looking at some statistics in terms of financial access to financial services in the country. And the latest survey that we have that was done by Statistics Bureau, KNBS, together with Treasury and Central Bank of Kenya. The latest is in 2019, and I think they did a pretty good job. And I see Mr. Apollo is back. So looking at the way Kenyans are accessing finances and products. First of all, financial inclusion has really come a long way, and access to financial products. I mean, 2006, 56% of the population, 2019, 82%, which is a very huge growth. So in terms of that growth translating into numbers, Mr. Apollo, how many Chamas as Faulu are you bringing on board, maybe on a yearly basis?
Every year we do 50 to 80 Chamas. Last year there was a bit of a slowdown on the backdrop of a significant COVID impact. And I think I like even the issue you're talking about, financial deepening, because the Microfinance Act itself was enacted to help deepen the market, to bring a lot of more and more people into the financial space. So literally talking about financial inclusion. But what is interesting, although we say that, banks have been around for a long time, and telcos, and I'm happy today we're also talking a lot about technology. Technology has done a big part in terms of penetrating the markets that banks for a long time were unable to do, because it took banks almost 20 years to get to get the total numbers of around, actually the number they give is about 10 million, but there's a big element of double counting of customers between one bank and another bank. So we have about 50 to 80 chamas, to be specific, to your point. But I think what is important is that we must think a lot about financial inclusion. And we also have to ask ourselves, what was interesting last year, although it was a COVID year, if you looked at the financial statement of all banks, generally the total savings went up. So people have now come to the realization that as a chama or even as individuals, it's very, very important to put some money aside. And and I think you've seen the joke that it's not a joke. That in this part of the world, for every 10 shillings people are spending, they would spend 11. So they were always in debt. But I think we've seen that beginning to change. We are seeing the number of chamas increasing, and the chamas also play a bigger part of social support. It's not just the fact that people come together, they are friends, and it becomes an avenue that brings them together, and socially they're able to support each other. Japheth should also feel free to jump in and share some of his views. Japheth, any comments from you?
Thank you, Apollo. I think you mentioned well. Chamas are very important channels for growing the economy, and in fact, in terms of the support that we have for one another. Chamas don't only assist in terms of growing wealth, but also the support systems that are there. And that's actually the core history of Chamas. It was to support one another, and then from that it went on to economic empowerment. So it's very, very important. And as Apollo has mentioned, there are a number of chamas who are currently unbanked. As a bank, we do between 50 and 80 per annum. We would like to see more of this going up, because there are lots of opportunities to grow this particular business. And from the humble beginnings that we talked about, we can be able to really develop the economy of this nation. So I think in terms of the effects of chamas on the economy, there's still lots of room for improvement, and the chamas can play a very, very important role in growing the Kenyan economy. Thank you.
Definitely. That is very important, because actually COVID has really exposed some of the loopholes in our economic system. And one of the ways that we can fill those loopholes is strengthening the chamas, because they are reaching down to the bottom. We talk about access to credit in our country, and the SMEs, for example, they've been complaining that they're not getting enough credit to invest in their businesses. One of formal financial sector, banks are preferring to invest with government other than invest and take risk with SMEs. So who will fill that space? And I think chamas can play that role. But looking at uptake of credit by people from chamas, I was looking at those statistics, and it's quite interesting. So back in 2006, it was standing at 1.7%. Okay, that is in 2006, a lot of years ago. In 2019, that 1.7% has grown to 8%. This is credit uptake from chamas. Why over a number of over 15 years? Why has it jumped from 1 to 8%? And could we do better, Mr. Apollo?
Yes, we obviously can do a lot better. And I think one of the things I can also say is, even one of the challenges we face as a country is how we collect our own statistics. I think we have huge gaps. There's a lot of informal trade that happens that is not captured, because these statistics are based on registered groups, but there are many groups that are not registered, that are completely informal and work out of the formal banking system. What I mean by that is until today, there are still many groups that meet together as friends, they exchange money. It doesn't go to any bank account. People meet together, they contribute maybe 50K, and there are 10 of them. They raise $500,000. The $500,000 is given to one person. He goes and buys a plot cash. And so there's, and to that extent, the statistic is distorted. There's that distortion that we need to appreciate exists. But that said, but that is a challenge of the banking space. But that why do people sometimes feel they don't have the need to physically bring money to a bank, and why do they transact directly like that? If you look at some of the regions, especially where we have a lot of pastoral communities, on market days in places like Narok, Kajiado, if you go to those places, the kind of money that is exchanged, or in places like Nanyuki or in Mararal, if you go to market days, where they sell cows, millions of shillings are exchanged. And on the same day that happens, there are people who hold huge amounts of money. There's a lot of money that is not necessarily in the formal sector the way we know it or understand it. So people hold a lot of that cash. They go and buy whatever they want to do directly. And my suggestion, I want to also suggest that part of it could have something to do even with our own taxation in this country. You find that some of our people, especially the informal space, I think we always say Kenya people are overtaxed. We should try and see how do you open that tax bracket. It is assumed that the employed salaried people are the ones with revenue, but you can see the real revenue is sitting in the informal space. If you go to a place like Kikomba, those people, the kind of turnovers that are done there, they're huge. But how much tax do those people pay? So I think this statistic is distorted to the extent that there's an interest group that has deliberately decided they're not going to get into the formal space where there'll be a lot of scrutiny, and they're operating away from the scrutiny because of that. And that is why there was this tax that was introduced on what is it? It was called like a self-assessment tax. You assess yourself like a minimum tax that you need to pay so that you are able to keep the economy running. Because as you said, if the reality is when we pay taxes, we also grow the country, we create the infrastructure. So when we run away from supporting that side of things, and we expect to have good infrastructure, where will the good infrastructure come from? When we want to have a good medical scheme, a better NHIF, a better pension fund from the government, they're not able to do that because of the situation that we have created. Okay, that's it. So I believe that the numbers are significantly higher than that. But I also believe that we have a role in ensuring that we can create an environment that allows them to grow. You make the point that how come, you see, a lot of these chamas, why are banks not lending and why are they going to T-bills? I think you alluded to that. And you said that indeed the opportunity then for chamas and SMEs is for us to be able to take the space that has been occupied by that gap that has been created by banks that are going ahead to buy T-bills. But let us step back and say one of the things then that happens, if you look at chamas and SACCOs, they lend, but sometimes the pricing is not necessarily very attractive. Sometimes you find that even the reason why banks are behaving like that in the first place is because of a regulation where when now we're talking about the CBR plus 4% and banks are lending at around 13%. You see, you can now see why that behavior pattern is the way it is. That behavior pattern is like that because the banks are assured of a return at 11%. So there's no interest in taking a 2% risk. That's it. So it means that we have then as a microfinance institutions and as SACCOs and as groupings, as SACCOs, you must be able to lend at a competitive price, a price that allows you to also go price the credit risk that you're carrying. Because on a good side, things work, but things also fail. A lot of startups don't end up failing, not because they couldn't have succeeded, but the significant thing that leads to their failure is poor financial education, poor bookkeeping, and diversion of funds. People borrow money, they say we want to do this good project, money is diverted to other things. We also have chamas that meet to entertain themselves, because again, I don't think all chamas meet with a view to growing a huge capital base, to acquiring assets. There are also chamas that are there for Mwenjoyo. Them they meet so that in December they go and party, and for them they have met the objectives. So no, those are my few comments.
That is quite interesting. I think maybe I've been part of that Mwenjoyo Chama, yeah, because I'm noticing my life changing. Anyways, that is interesting points that you're raising in terms of barriers to even access to, credit from Chamas. But, technology has been touted as the solution to everything. And this is a conversation that we have. I remember when devolution was starting, they were saying the introduction of IESE, that will bring, transparency in the way we handle our finances. Then a few years down the line, we are like, people are going around IESE and still there's money, finding its way out of the system. So in terms of technology, and coming to you, Eric, some of the points that Mr. Apollo has raised in terms of Chamas, technology rather being used to streamline Chamas. In Kenya, where do we stand in that scale, in that grand scale of things?
My general understanding of technology and belief in technology is not supposed to change life as we know it. It is supposed to make things more effective for us, simpler, but don't change our lives. And I think the mistake we do make at times is try to make technology a panache for all our problems. And we realize that when you're building some of our solutions, we don't try to change how you run your Chama. We appreciate the fact that you have different reasons why you have your Chama. We appreciate that you have your different rules that are on the ground, but you just want to automate those processes. You don't want us to change them for you. And therefore, we've built all our technology with that human concept in mind. So I don't see at what point then that you want to spin the idea of technology to be all of a sudden like now everybody's going to start saving because there's an app or technology allows them to save. It's not going to happen. We don't think that we are going to make the whole idea of Chama now go formal simply because we made them a solution that enables them to have transparency on their platform. We appreciate that is not going to happen. But where we are going to play is for those who understand that finances, when they land on the hands of one person, who is they called the treasurer, requires trust. And we therefore give them somebody else. And we actually refer to Malipo as a person, because it is the person who now becomes the treasurer that handles your finances, where none of you now has to be worried that so-and-so, because he has his own financial problems, is going to divert our cash to use it for something else. Malipo now comes to solve that kind of problem, but do a lot more. When that person he has multiple things that he has to do, and managing books is not his strength. So you don't need to fight about finances, about how much at the end of the year when you need to share your shares, especially in some of the chamas that involve shares. You don't need to fight about your contributions and how much you have. Now you start fighting the treasurer on the calculations, because you understand that basic math is hard at times, especially when you have to sustain it all through and when money disappears, because we are human. And at any given time when I receive money from my cham on a weekend, and I'm broke, I'll divert the cash for the time being, and then I'll be able to pay it back. So what if you had a solution that stops all those kind of issues happening from the very onset? Because some of these issues are very simple. They have nothing to do with banking. They have nothing to do with, it's just how we live our life. And ideally, that's what we are trying to solve. And of course, Malip also goes about that. We realize that when you are in problem, you also need to do a fundraiser. And it has the same concepts that you want to do, which the app also supports. You simply want to be able to pull yourselves together, collect money together in a way that's transparent between yourselves, something private. It doesn't have to be public. So we understand that, and that's what we try to streamline, automate, and make it extremely painless for members who want to do chamas.
Wow. I think that's an important point that everyone has to note down. Do not say that, technology is this, magic bullet that will just transform everything, but it is there to streamline and help, things become more efficient. And this raises the question now, because we have a very young and bulging population in the country, Mr. Apollo. Majority of our population is young. And that's why we're talking matters high unemployment rates amongst young people. Now, looking at the demographic of being a sector player and an insider, the dynamic of people in Chamas that are vibrant and successful. Are young people included in this conversation? Are they taking advantage of this new system to be able to amass wealth and become better people?
Yes, no, thank you. Indeed, it's an area we need to do more, because I think the reality in this market now is a lot of young people, as they graduate and leave university, it's not, I don't think a lot of them, in all honesty, assume, or even their DNA is necessarily employment, because the economy is the way it is. But yet, one of the most amazing things I must say that has happened is you can see a lot of these young people, they become so good at developing apps, they become so good at doing a lot of other things. And I think one of the things I must commend and acknowledge a university like Strathmore is the incubation centers that are created there, where people can go and incubate some great ideas. And then we as banks, we support them. We find as they go to incubate those good ideas there, we pick them up and offer them loans. And a lot of them are coming through the SME side of the business a lot, where you look for them because they have the ideas, they know what exactly they're supposed to do. The only thing they lack is the capital to do it. And I think we have a big responsibility to be able to support this and to grow this economy, because I think, in all fairness, over all these years, you can see the number of employment seems to continue going down, but then you can see the economy is also, there are opportunities to grow, but I think we need to do a lot more to strengthen the informal sector. One of the things that we had started doing, and the COVID came and kind of impacted us in a negative way, was the fact we wanted to start having a lot of breakfast meetings with these young people, where they come there, you bring topical leaders and talk to these young people. Basically, there's a curriculum we've developed. The curriculum covers two aspects. One, how to start a business, and the second part of it is how to manage a business. Because young people have good ideas, but what sometimes they lack is the know-how, the technical know-how, how do you manage a business, but they have good ideas in their minds. So if you can facilitate, our idea, and it's something that we're going to use technology, as Eric is telling us this morning, is, there's a way we are all waiting to go back to the norm that we'll never go back to. So I think it's to ask ourselves, how can we do that? How can we still do it digitally? Get people to join in, talk to them, because if they learn how to start a business, they learn how to access finance. Because a lot of things, if they learn how to grow capital, because savings can only take you to a certain point. You then have to learn, how do you grow the capital base of the company to be able to do bigger and stronger things? How do you create a governance structure around it? So I think, I do believe the opportunity is there. To the extent that we are also looking for employees, we are very deliberate about going for young people. We want young people in the bank. Young people in the economy, they have the strength, they have the zeal, they have the thoughts, they are able to adapt to technology, because there's a lot of change that has happened that completely disrupts a lot of what we believed and knew to be the norm. And then you see, we can get into a situation, if you're not careful, where you've created so much technology and there's so much, but the adoption is so poor. But the poor adoption of technology has a lot to do with the average age. So I must say and be honest, for me in the bank, I would like to see the average age coming down significantly, because young people have a lot of good ideas. Young people, they'll be able to think outside the box, because if you look at even a lot of businesses right now, what is our biggest challenge? Our biggest challenge, we are trying to make sense out of things that are so different from what we knew them to be. If you look at restaurants, let me just take that as an example. I'm sure you have a favorite restaurant, Noah, you used to go to. Now it's closed. But does that mean that Noah doesn't still miss his Chinese? So those people who run that restaurant, if they don't think differently and think about how do they get to know who used to come, and that is big data. So we need to be able to work with the data a lot. We must be able, and just be able, the online businesses have done well. COVID, there are people who are making a kill out of this thing, but those are the ones who have realized the bus has turned. Those who are whining and complaining is because they're waiting for things to go back to normal, and they won't. So, because even if today you're told to go back to your restaurant, you're still a bit nervous. But if there's a way someone can convince you they'll deliver that meal you like at your house or in your office, wherever you are, then you're happy to have it. So I just think that kind of thinking and that kind of zeal and energy must come from the university. Young people who are brilliant. And I said universities not by mistake. Let me qualify even why I've said that. I am a firm believer that if this country is going to move forward, I'm a firm believer that if any of our businesses will move to the next level, we must find a way of picking the brightest and the most. This country has a lot of clever people, brilliant. But sometimes when you watch the things you watch on TV, they almost break your heart to see such clever people who got first-class honors, who are so clever, but they couldn't even get the opportunity to be able to start a business. Those people, it would be a great privilege for a company to have them work for them because they're brilliant. Brilliance is not something that you can impose on people. Brilliance, they're people who you need to have around. Brilliant people have great ideas. They know how to work around things. They have the tenacity to be able to hold up even when things are difficult. And to me, if you ask me, my obsession is helping young people, especially those who are really bright. Those ones must be given a chance because that is the future of this country. And Noah, it is sad, many years later, when COVID comes, when we have any catastrophe in this country, we look to the West to help us. And it makes you wonder, don't we have clever doctors in this country? Don't we? I thought we had Cambridge. You feel sad to see that where are we still in, at every point, it's like we are one step back. Eh? Why? After all these years, everything, even this technology, this laptop we are using here, how come we've never convinced HP that we have what it takes to do assembly of laptops in this country? Even the consumption in our country and in our region is not strong enough. So we are busy pushing and building other economies at our own expense. And we have to ask ourselves, why is it like that? If you look at the sugar industry in this country, we had a big sugar belt in Mumias, Nyanza. All those sugar factories have almost ground to a halt. Why is it like that? Because some people want to bring in sugar using dubious routes. And how can you explain that sugar can be brought to this country at a cost cheaper than local manufacture in Mumias? It just tells you that something abnormally, we have created an abnormal structure. We need to address our problems. And those problems will be addressed by our young people. And it is because their lives depend on it. If you made the sugar industry work as an example, make it efficient, stop importing all this expensive machinery from India. Even as you have people here who do engineering, or what engineering do they learn? If after all these years, they've never learned how to make cane crushers, and we still have to rely on people in India to make it for us to import it. And we pay taxes that we don't have. We use our FX that is so we are struggling to get. If we made farming a dignified thing, if you go to Europe, if you go to countries like Netherlands, and you see how they do farming, using they've reclaimed polders that, this is land that is below sea level. They've been able to reclaim it and they're able to farm. As our land, we are above sea level. We are at, you go to very high altitude where we have good weather, but we've not taught our people that farming is a profitable thing. So if you ask me about the young people, we have to change how we think, even we ourselves here, and we must stop thinking about work the way we have known it to be. We must not stop thinking that farming is a winning thing. Farming is not. If you go to the US, some of the wealthiest people they own huge trucks, they do proper farming and they make money. They export it and they've dignified the whole process. So to me, a lot of our chamas, a lot of our young people, because we have a lot of arable land, we have a lot of neighbors around us who are starving, Somalia and other places. And if we can do good farming, we learn how to do value addition, things will change. Now to this day, many years later, we say we have the best in this country. But you know the truth. The people making the real money, we export a lot of this tea. What we get, Lipton makes more money than KTDA many times over. But does Lipton own tea farms? I leave the answer to you. So it tells us that our people in tea growing areas, our people in coffee growing areas, we don't even take coffee here in Kenya. Why haven't we encouraged, why don't we have the taste for it? But if you go to a lot of these Arabic countries, they love this coffee so much. So it goes to export. But if you go to Central today, a lot of coffee farms, they are uprooting those farms. But there are many jobless young people there who are suffering. If you go to Java today, those of you who like coffee, that coffee you take, why isn't it from Moranga? And I'm not from Moranga, not that I'm advocating anything for them. But why don't we consume coffee from there? Why do we import coffee to sell? Why do we go to buy eggs in the supermarket imported from South Africa? So no, we have a problem, and we have to face up to ourselves. It's not that the youth have been sidelined. I think maybe people our age are the ones who are the problem, because why do we allow for those things to be imported? We should be giving our young people money. They set up those farms, we buy the eggs, they make a living, they live decent lives, they're happy. But when we create a system where you allow all these things to flood this market, when you don't protect this market, you import everything. We even want to import workers from abroad. Those kind of senseless things, I think, have played a big part in hurting our economies and not making us be what we can be. But I do believe we have a chance, and to all of us, to the extent that we can, we must do our part in reaching out and helping the youth. When you have opportunities of employment, you must look for young people and give them those opportunities, because they hold the key to the future of this country.
Heavy points right there. Actually, we can have a totally different webinar discussing, how we can turn back this structure, because it's highly skewed, as you pointed out. The other day somebody was noting that we are a country that imports toothpicks, but we assemble guns. It doesn't add up. But I think that is a bigger discussion. Eric, you are a tech person. You say that technology comes to bring efficiency. We understand efficiency with youth is one thing. Yeah, actually, young people tend to propagate, usage of technology. In fact, there is a high probability for a group of young people saying, it's easier to use, Malipo application because it's efficient for us in different towns and whatnot. So in terms of tech being that turning factor of trying to bring this huge population of young people. As much as earlier on you say that, tech is not the magic bullet. You do, bring efficiency. But is there a place of using tech to kind of convince this majority of young people in our country to look in and come into some of these spaces like Chamas and encourage, savings and whatnot?
We hope tech will be able to achieve that, definitely. That is the whole basis of us building Malipo. But we also believe that life in general evolves around efficiency, from industrialization to being supply chain optimizations, efficient manufacturing. All those brought different companies that built up and made our world what it is today. We're now moving from industrialized age to a technology age, which is almost coming to its end. We're going to move to a new era altogether. Cars were manufactured faster, and therefore more cars existed on the road because manufacturing process were automated and made more efficient. So I think it's a general human culture to appreciate anything that makes your life easier, makes you more productive, leaves more space in your hands for you to be able to do other things, spend time with your family, friends, and just do the things that are important in life. I don't think the things important in life is constantly being worried about creating wealth. It's being able to enjoy the small things that matter. And if you can then automate everything else that makes your life difficult, or make them more efficient, or make them work for you better, then by all measures of success, go ahead and do it. I don't think there's any yard that should stop you from going ahead and doing that. And that's why we'll tell you to go ahead and download Malipo and start using it at any time. Because as I see, Apollo is very passionate about the idea of the youth and education and creating things. And I'm sure that 90% of people are joining us in that bracket. And they feel left out by the banks, of course. They feel that banks are not there to serve them. And therefore, we encourage them to make products that work for them. They feel they have the ability to do the jobs. They start to sell their softwares to these banks. The banks still want to get from India and the UK and the US, because that's where they feel they're comfortable. So I think that discussion is very important, and we can have it during another time. We're already trying to work with Faulu, of course, to see if we can enable the Chamas that they have, who of course can't afford the core banking systems that the bank already invests in, so that they can also adopt these technologies to enable them have things that work for them better. So I am a firm believer that yes, as time has shown, of course, we're also spoiled. We're a generation that is spoiled, as I can say. The efficiencies of Google made everything to be a fingertip away, and therefore anything that doesn't work, you also forget about advanced technology. And that's why technology also moves fast. So if you deliver a solution, we guarantee that it works. We deliver on what we promise. I think that is the core thing that we pride ourselves on. There are a lot of people who work behind the scenes to make sure that works. Not only me, there's a lot of engineering team that makes sure that works. So I see there are a lot of questions talking about demonstration of the app and everything that comes with that. I hope we could have the time to do all that. But we get the idea that, yes, technology is important. Yes, the youth are important. And we try to bring them onto the platform to make them grow better. There's the idea of instant reward that is now very common. And that's what we exactly do for you. You put your money, you exactly see it. You invest it, you exactly see it. You request it, you exactly see it. We understand that's how the world works now. And we have to adapt to those same expectations that are placed on us by our customers. And they're also drivers. So we are more than open to also listen to what the people who use Malipo, even those who don't, and what they think we should be able to empower them to do within Malipo, because we are looking at the whole ecosystem of how a Chama works. And we also welcome ecosystem partners, because we're not just only enabling you on your money. We understand this Chama save to do different things. They save to furnish their houses. They save to, their uses are so diverse, you'll be surprised. There's a Chama I know that runs on Malipo that actually saves on project base. They choose a project, they say they want to buy a piece of land on Thika Road. They invite people, they say we need this amount of capex. We say every month you're going to get 30,000, how many people are willing to do this? And they start and they acquire the land. And that investment then stays with them on the platform. They've invested, I have a Chama that started a project simply to buy cows because they wanted to start a farming project for beef. And they start the project on Malipo, invite those who they have as their friends, start the Chama, do the contributions there and do the merchant payments right from that place. So they're basically able to, and they also registered their Chama officially through Malipo, because Malipo then provides an ecosystem of banks that are able to finance you, lawyers that are able to do the diligence work for you, register your Chama to make it official. And we are with you to, basically it's all through the journey that you want. You want merchants that you're able to buy things cheaply from as a Chama, we negotiate those kind of discounts for you. So it's a whole ecosystem that we are building to serve the Chama community. You want to unlock some of the capital that you keep as a Chama, because we realize that they save. By the time I want to get out as a member, and I have my cash locked out in the Chama, Malipo then basically enables you to trade those shares within yourselves, and one of you is able to buy them. It manages the entire transaction process. So it's a whole lot more that we do as Malipo. We want to grow with Chamas. We realize it's a long journey that we all have to take together. We realize the youth need more and more tools that enable them to grow and to do their day-to-day things. And we're in a space where we are moving peer-to-peer payments, we are sure has been solved. M-Pesa has done very well, and we don't see the need of replicating that space. We encourage banks, of course, to do more with PesaLink, but we're in a space where we are seeing group payments to be what the future is, as in, this is the market that has not been addressed. People doing things together and managing money together in a way that is transparent, in a way that is quick, in a way that is efficient, in a way that is seamless. And that's where we're trying to play. And we hope we will achieve some of those goals that we're looking to do. Definitely we will. It will take us time. We'll learn from you guys, but we definitely will.
That's incredible. Actually, I'm challenged, Maureen, as I pass over to you, because I have a couple of friends with me here. I don't know whether after this we'll take a look at Malipo app and start buying cows. Maybe that would be a good start for us, right? Over to you, Maureen.
Thank you, Noah. Eric, thank you also, Eric and Mr. Apollo. I've been quiet for a while, but I've been checking on the questions that are coming in. And one of the questions someone asks, Eric, this is to you. If someone wants a soft loan, can Malipo hand them without having, like, being in a Chama? Can Malipo help them access the loan and then they pay later? Someone is asking that question to you, Eric.
The answer is no. Malipo only supports Chamas and groups of people. I'm sure the peer-to-peer lending has been effectively dealt with by Fuliza and Mshwari and KCB M-Pesa and all the alternatives that exist in the market. So no, we don't.
Eric,
Okay.
I thought you throw the question to me, Eric, and say Faulu can help them. Because
Faulu can of course help them.
Yes.
That is our job. Eric should give the technology, and quite frankly, that is a space that we play in strongly, and we'd actually encourage the young people to come and open accounts with us. And we have a way of then being able to access, for us, we don't do collateral lending, we do cash flow lending. So as they come, we will look at what they can do, we'll try and understand the ideas they have, see how to support them to grow, and we will be happy to support, provide them with products, lending products that are relevant and ideal for them. So I'd like to request them to walk into any of the Faulu branches, and we should be able to see how best to help them. Let me tell you something, Maureen, just to add up to that. Sometimes even as they think about the need to borrow money to set up a business, I'd like to emphasize that there's a bigger need. As they open those accounts have it's a bundled product. The bundled product has an element of life insurance. If anything was to ever happen to them, in this part of the world, we think it's spooky to talk about death, but death is a part of life. And if anything happens to them, they have for just a payment of just about, is it a premium of 500 shilling, they're able to get a cover of up to like 100K. And those are good things, and it's responsible living. We have medical cover. As they go, if anything was to happen to them beyond the business, then we're able, because remember, Paul is part of the Old Mature Group, so we have very good bundle of products that takes care of their medical, because during this COVID period, I think we realize health is a big thing. So we have those unique products, and I think I'd encourage these young people to stream into our branches, and we'll be very happy to see how to support that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Apollo. Another question, Eric, this also goes to you. Someone is asking, can someone, for short-term users of the app who are saving for a short-term goal, are they able to still access their records once they maybe come back?
Yes, your records always exist. Sorry?
So once they're done with their short-term goal saving, can they still access their records once they decide that they want to continue maybe for a longer term?
Yes, your records exist on the platform forever. For as long as you have an account on Malipo, your record exists on Malipo. We don't delete any of your records, yes.
Thank you. Another question is being asked. What is Malipo doing for people who cannot access a smartphone?
So ideally, what we enable in Malipo is if you're unable to access a smartphone and you're a member of a Chama, you can still, once your Chama is created on Malipo by one of your treasurer or chairman who has a smartphone, you can make your contributions using a pay bill. And the pay bill is 473299. The account is, of course, the ID of your Chama that will have been created on the platform.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another question, Eric. How has been the uptake of the app been like in the market right now?
So we are very thankful that a lot of people have appreciated the value of Malipo. And I think we get about 100 registrations a day on Malipo, with about 5 Chamas being formed on Malipo daily. So we are more than, it's been one of those things that have really made us to keep investing in it, because the adoption is quite interesting.
So on average, how many Chamas are you managing currently?
We currently manage around 600 Chamas on Malipo. Yes.
Thank you. Then another question also. So how do you think the Malipo app can help Chamas increase their savings portfolios?
So there are 2 things that makes a Chama grow, and from our perspective, and that we've looked to help see more Chamas grow from just small and increase their portfolio, as you talked about it. And that is, it starts with good financial systems that enable you to track your money, know where your money is, calculate the interest, and just develop confidence in the Chama. Because as I'd said when we were starting this conversation, is that almost 80% of Chamas drop off after the first 6 months. And most of that is because of financial fights, lack of proper record keeping, just small issues. You meet in a Chama and the first 1 hour is simply going to be about reconciling accounts instead of talking about how do we grow the Chama from A to B. And that's the discussion we are looking to eliminate as much as possible. We still want you to meet, but instead of spending the first 1 hour fighting about I sent money or you didn't send, my interest was wrongly calculated. Once that base is done, which is where we really look to play and make that extremely strong, we believe the Chama will automatically, you'll be surprised what it does to just have a good base of financial discipline within the platform that keeps your record and manages it for you. Once the headache, because we all can't afford CFOs in what big companies are able to do. That's why they have CFOs. We're putting a CFO in your pocket for you as a Chama, an accountant who does all the job an accountant should do right on your fingertips for you. So yes, that's what we believe will unlock your ability to grow your savings within the Chama. And of course, the things you can then do within the app from there, you'll now be able to bring in more people into your Chama to grow it as you keep working on the platform.
Okay. Another question that is being asked: is it possible for Malipo to help a young growing Chama with a facilitator to talk to them?
Yes, it is. We can be able to organize that. So I think the first thing that you need to do on this basis is once you register on Malipo has so many features that we call them experiences for these Chamas. And the experience bit of Malipo has so much that a Chama is able to enjoy once they're on the platform. So you can have people will give you financial advice as a Chama, as one of the experienced people you'll get on experiences. You can get to maybe host each other's Chamas to learn from each other. And you can do all those requests within the platform. So experiences has a lot more for Chamas, and maybe we'll talk more about it as we keep releasing the product slowly by slowly. But that's a big part of where we're looking for Chamas. So yes, we can be able to organize that for Chamas.
Okay. This one is to Mr. Apollo. How much is the interest rate to repay the soft loans for Chamas?
Japhet, you have been very quiet. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, Japhet is so quiet.
Thank you, Apollo. Thank you, Maureen. Interest rates are actually a factor of various other things, including the underlying risk, the cash flows that the Chama is generating, and all those kinds of things. So we really do not have a one fit in all for all Chamas. Basically, the interest rates for that we give out range from 19 to 30%, depending on the perceived risk that is there. Yeah. So it's something that can be discussed and negotiated, depending on, of course, those things that I've talked about, the risk that is there in that particular lending, the cash flows that are being generated, and the industry or the sector that particular Chama is. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Japhet. Someone else is asking here, Nyakwai is asking, can one use a USSD code to enter into a Chama? So he's saying he thinks that using an USSD code will be easier to even invite one to the Chama.
Yeah, we'll take Nyakoe's suggestion into consideration. We currently don't support USSD, but we'll definitely have that in mind as we move forward.
Thank you. Noah, up to you now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm loving this. So We've spoken quite a number of things, because today is how Chamas are influencing, the savings culture. But I think that there should be also sort of a journey, understanding where opportunities lie, Mr. Apollo. You've just spoken about people realizing that, having a medical cover is very important in someone's life. And it has taken a pandemic for some of us to have that realization. So for Chamas, especially people who want to come and start doing Chamas, or Chamas who want to venture into investments, are there key opportunities that they could be working towards? What are the opportunity spaces for Chamas to have a sort of an investment arena for them at this age in time?
I think first I'd like to say that, as you have said, we also have significant limitations in this webinar because of time constraint, but we'd like to work closely. I believe Maureen will make sure that this partnership doesn't end this morning, that we can work closely with Eric and get this database of the SACCO members. And we would like, one of the unique things we have as a bank, we have a huge distribution of branches spread across the country. And we would like to have like localized meetings where you're able to actually share our contacts. We'll do that. I'm sure Maureen will be able to share this with you and with Eric, and so that we see how we can work with this, with the Chamas, different Chamas, because as we have said, these Chamas all have very, very different interests. And one of the things I have been talking about consistently is the issue of savings. Even before you decide what you want to do, one of the things that Chamas will benefit a lot as they join Faulu is the fact that we offer very competitive interest rates on savings of up to 5%. This is just on the money they're depositing in a small savings account. I can tell you in this market, all the big names that we have mentioned of the big banks will not match anything like that. They take your money for free. They offer you 0 interest or 1%. And so it's good so that you're getting a return as you build this saving amount. I have just shared, Noah, that we have every intention, and if you work together and you give us the database of this, the members that you're dealing with, the interest groups, we'd like to engage them more into now going into very specific, like the pricing you asked, it's so general. But you see, there are people also who borrow in this bank at 16%. There are those who borrow at 7%. It's all a factor of who you are, what's the plan, what's the offering. But you know what I like telling people? Don't get stuck at the pricing, at the interest rate. Become obsessed with what are you going to make. Today, if I give you 1 million shillings, you can say you're looking for the cheapest 1 million shillings. And nobody offers you, because as you said, the big banks now at a point where there isn't much lending going on. And the reason for it is, why should they lend to you and they can go and buy T-bills? But then what happens on this other side of the divide is not that we may sound like we're a little more pricey, but it's also because of the cost. I'm offering you a better pricing on your savings. You bring a savings account, I'm giving you 5%, you're getting 0 on the other side. For your Chama that is holding a lot of millions, bring them. We'll give you a fixed deposit. That one of you as Noah will give you a FD 10%, and if you go to the competition, you'll get 4% or you get 5%. So on FDs, in terms of on the savings side, the return you get from an institution like ours is far superior to what you get in the market. That is what in the bank we call cost. So it means when you're giving, you're really benefiting. Because we are giving you a very good return, you are going to you're able to get better interest on the money that you're earning. When it comes to this other divide, one of the things that I can encourage that is good, you can also as a Chama benefit from a very good savings account or from a very good fixed deposit, and we can do what is called back-to-back lending. Back-to-back lending is where you can decide that you're going to give me a mixed collateral. You'll give me part of this savings that you have, but then you also say, we bought some plot, here is a title for that plot. Do you want to keep it? And I give you, and give me a better rate than you would ordinarily give me. So Noah, why I'm emphasizing this thing is because a lot of deals that people cut in this market for 3 or 6 months, you'll find that you'll get an LPO that has a margin of almost 40%. So you can become obsessed, or you can get a mental block about the price that, I'm not going to pay 18%, it's too high, I should go and look for cheap money. Why do you think Sherlocks are making a killing in this market? Sherlocks are making a killing because they tell you they're giving you 10% of the amount and you pay them in a month. So if you want $1 million, a Sherlock will tell you pay me, and I'm not telling you to don't go to Sherlock, come to Faulu. Faulu will offer you a very friendly rate, because even if you have to take that highest rate, let me take like the worst, the highest risk, at the highest risk of 30, it's like 2.5% per month. It's cheap. Because if you're doing a deal that has a profit margin of 20%, what do you care about paying someone 3% for money you didn't have? So, and I'm saying that so that we think a lot like entrepreneurs. If you become, a lot of times people get mental blocks, but you miss the point that as long as that deal has a good margin, and if the margin is 20%, if I was you, I would even pay 5. Even I can pay 10. Let's share. It's better to have 50% of what you don't have than to be left with the intellectual thoughts of looking for the best deal that you will never get, and therefore you miss the deal. So Noah, those are the conversations we'd like to have with the smaller groupings, so that we help understand. Okay, and that's why I talked about things like LPO financing. All these LPOs, none of them has a margin below 20%. So if you come, you do 3 or 4 or 5 of those, you'll make a lot of money. And you know, in this world, it's give and take. You have to be willing to share. If there's 100K to be made, you better walk home with 80,000, leave 20K with your financial, because they also give you capital to do what that others not have been able to do. So those are my thoughts, you know, and I just want to tell you, I'm going to personally come and open your account, and even Eric and Maureen, you know, I will be a relationship manager so that you can be give me on whether or not
That's very kind of you, Mr. Apollo. Wow. That's rule number 1. Always go for the client and make sure you get them. But maybe just briefly, you know, we're discussing the saving culture, and one of the way to look at it, saving can be a product of earning and also a cultural issue. So in relation to the current economic environment that we're in, it's not only in Kenya. We understand COVID has had quite an impact. Unless you took advantage of it, as you say, people ventured into the digital world, they are making a killing out of it. But overall speaking, in our country and our culture, is it also an income situation that is preventing saving, other than just that culture of not saving?
I think it's a fair question, because also if you go and ask someone who doesn't have money to feed themselves, and you tell them to save, they may find it an insult, because how do you save if you're barely struggling to make ends meet? But you know what was unique last year? Although it was a COVID year, for the first time, actually, I'm sure you saw the financials of banks. All banks, with the exception of 1 or 2, the non-performing books went. The loan book that was non-performing, when customers struggled to pay, it went up. But if you look at the deposits across board went up. That was a very interesting thing. And when I say up, it means if you look at banks like Equity, the deposits went up by 23%. Faulu, they went up by 14%. KWFT, 7%. Bank, all banks, the total deposit went up. So it tells you that in a crisis, Kenyans also, but you know what you're calling savings is what now, this is a cash flow that disappeared from the market. The trading businesses went down because a lot of people who do business, who buy and sell, they slowed down because they feared. Obviously, they had a natural fear of nobody knew this COVID would be for how long. And people then who had considered doing capex, big projects, obviously they slowed down, and for good reason, because we don't want to inject a lot of money putting up the houses or setting up, even if it's office spaces, and yet the market has shifted and people now have kind of changed their views around how to behave. But the point you also make is very interesting, because we see those patterns even within our own country, and there are regions where people tend to save more than others. So the cultural aspect of it is also there. No, we can't run away from it. That in certain sections, we notice savings, there are certain communities that save more than others. But I think what's important for us is to encourage, is to provide financial literacy. Even those who don't save a lot, maybe, although we say it's cultural, but it's also maybe just how, you know, what can I say? You know, even what you call cultural is because, you know, now I can misbehave. I can be careless in how I manage my finances because you are my friend. And I know, even if I have a problem and I'm broke, no can give me. So that can also be a catalyst to my bad behavior in terms of spending. So you find the communities that tend to be very community-based, even in this country, where people are very close, the communities are close, they tend to be poor savers because the community is like a safety net. In communities that are very individualistic, where everybody for himself and God for us all. If I know that if I go to Noah will just make me feel worse. He'll ask me, but you work, why don't you have money? Why are you asking me? Even I have relatives, you go to your relatives. In communities that have that kind of behavior, the way you're laughing, I think you know who I'm talking about. In those communities that behave like that, people tend to then realize that they have to create their own safety nets. So I think in a nutshell, what I'd like to say is it's good that we all, and I think to be honest, even the worst culprits are employees. That is the saddest part, that employees on the payday, if money doesn't come, it's as if, it's like there is death. Life just, things change so badly. And I really want to say, with due respect, I was surprised one time I was watching news and a judge who had been there for many, he was 68 years old, and he appealed to be given another 2 years to serve. And that just made me realize this thing called employment is also a problem. That you get so accustomed to a payslip that you've been working for 68, you're asking for 2 more years to do what? What is this you are going to do that you have not done? So, so to the young people, to all of us, I think we need to just develop a proper savings culture. And like I've said, the payslip itself is the biggest problem because it makes you very lazy. You depend on it every day. The day it is taken away, you almost think life cannot go on. And you almost begin to ask yourself, what about all those young people who have never been employed? They drive cars, they take their kids to school, they pay hospital bills. So to me, that would be my parting shot to say that we must have an entrepreneurial spirit within us. We must realize, each one of us, we must save, we must think about tomorrow, because, and we should not assume that just because we have resources today, they will always be there, but we must always cushion ourselves and create, save, invest, and do things that can support us in the days ahead when we may not have the zeal and we may not be on people's favorites. It does not mean that life comes to an end. It just means that we'll be able to experience a different life. But it's a brain thing. You have to think like that.
Yes, definitely mentality. Maureen, I'm seeing more questions streaming in.
Yes, I've seen there's so many questions coming in. There's one question. This question is to Eric. Is it possible for Chamas to lend each other?
Yes, it's possible for members of a Chama to lend within their own Chama. It's not possible for now to borrow from another Chama. If you're a Chama, we still don't support that. But if you're within a Chama, you can lend we can lend each other within the Chama itself using Malipo.
Okay. Then there's another question. If one wants to opt out from a Chama, what's the process?
So when you're in your Chama and you're a member, there's a leave button that you can just click and you leave your Chama. Of course, there are several things that the app will look at. Do you have a loan within the Chama? If you do, of course, you cannot leave the Chama.
Hello, Eric.
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can get you.
Yes, now I can hear you.
I'm saying, yes, Malipo allows you to leave. So there's a button which is a leave button within the app. You just click leave and you will leave. But of course, there are several rules that before you're allowed to leave the Chama, that must be checked. Do you have an existing loan within the Chama? If you do,
yes,
you cannot leave. If you are the admin, you cannot leave unless you are still another admin of the Chama. If it is a merry-go-round kind of Chama and your turn is not yet to receive the contributions, or you haven't contributed for whoever is supposed to get their round next, you cannot leave. So there are several rules that we have that ensures that somebody cannot just wake up and leave while they have obligations to the Chama that they haven't met.
Maureen, just to note, Kenyans, we have a culture of leaving groups at the middle of the night when people are asleep. We have that culture of leaving groups at midnight when everyone is asleep. So you wake up tomorrow, you just find, oh, somebody left 2 days ago at midnight. So I think that is quite an interesting use of technology. If you're not vibing with your Chama anymore, there's just a button there to leave, but with consideration. Quite commendable. As Maureen frozen.
It seems so frozen.
I hope that, yeah, it's okay. Internet issues, we understand. Safaricom rolled out 5G the other day, and I was looking at the price range of 5G phones. My friend, it's gonna take a while to have penetration, but as you've said, having this kind of engagement, seeing people pool resources and channel them towards investment, I think it's very important for growth. Now in terms of COVID-19 impact on Chamas, Mr. Apollo, because this is the conversation everyone is having. Banks are coming up and they're saying, oh, our spaces, our financials, we had to set up, non-performing loans have been on the rise, and whatnot. All these structural adjustments within even how we report our finances. In the Chama world, from your observation, since you handle lots of Chamas as a bank, how have they responded to COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you, Noah. And quite frankly, they have been impacted negatively. And because you see, a lot of times, COVID has actually come to just expose how weak the buffers we've created in the financial systems, just how weak they are. Because you find a big customer, a big SME client who has 10 trucks, and because of COVID, he's able to park maybe half of them and half can get work. There's a sense in which they're able to sustain themselves because their revenue taps don't all stop. The flows just don't go off at once. But what we have seen, and I think what COVID has come to teach us that we must create bigger and better stress test models within our own businesses, in our own frameworks. Because we've seen our own chamas that, let's give you an example. If you had a chama that used to procure and supply foodstuffs, let's say to a hotel in Mombasa, you see the way those hotels just one morning woke up and they were all shut. They were not able, that chama that has been doing some fresh produce and sales, it's not possible for them to immediately get an alternative market. And some of them, maybe they had obligations that were tied to some of these deliveries. So you find they had to find alternative markets, and to that extent, they were impacted. Some of our chamas of young people who have come together and bought borders, and they ran them then to move people around. COVID last year, there was a time when you had like a proper lockdown. People are not going anywhere. So suddenly, they came and borrowed money to pay for those motorcycles on the backdrop of expected cash flows that they hoped they would make. Now, suddenly, if they used to do 10 trips, they are doing 2 trips, and at some point, they are doing no trips. So that, again, impacts them. So I think what I can say is that it still is. It's difficult. A lot of them are slowly coming out, and we hope that they'll be able to recover. But I think the economy, it will take us 2 to 3 years, I believe, to get back to where we should be. And that's why, as a bank, one of the things we have done is to mobilize certain fundings that we want to focus on certain key segments of the economy, like SMEs. We talked a lot about SMEs and this community and community lending. We want to really focus on those areas to see that we can give these customers some loans to help them jumpstart their businesses. Because when your foodstuffs rot and things like that, that is an outright loss. So unless you give that customer some fresh capital to be able to set up again and start again, there's potentially those kind of businesses get into problems. The chamas that came together and put up some properties for rentals, I think when you drive through, even the big chamas that were able to put up a lot of apartments in Kileleshwa, Kilimani area, when you drive through those areas, those are all white elephants. It doesn't mean those houses are bad, they're great, but they can't get customers because the retail side of it, the demand would be driven from a lot of employees who are working in some of these corporates. But you find, again, you open the newspaper, you find big companies, a big airline sending half of the staff home, retrenchments. Those things are very negative to an economy because those are the people also who support the retail side of some of the projects, the big projects that we see. So the impact was not, but then there's something to learn. And I think what I can say to the farmers is that in the term, even as you think about investments, it is good for you to have a conservative investment plan. We tend to always look at the brighter side of things, but we must, I think COVID has come to teach us that we must always look at a middle case, we must also look at our worst case. And I think when you think of, and I think COVID has taught us what we thought was our worst case turned out to be worse than our worst case we had ever thought. In many businesses, and I can even tell you for free now in banks, worst case scenario was always envisaged around elections. That is the time banks used to know we will go ahead and ban a few businesses. We behave the way we behave badly as Kenyans, but it would just take 3 months. After that, we'd get out of it. But now, COVID, a whole year, it was quite extended and continues to be a challenge even into 2021. We started this year with a lot of optimism. The businesses were picking, but suddenly they've gone into a lull again because of the situation we find ourselves in. So I think it's just to say, I don't think anybody can sit here and promise or imagine that we're headed for easier days ahead. I think we're headed for difficult days ahead because you can see when the curve we expected the curve to be flattening. Just the other day, you can see we don't even have the discipline to be at home at 8 o'clock as expected. So that doesn't speak much into our own abilities to be able to flatten these curves. If you look at other more developed markets, people take a lot of these things very seriously. In the same news you watch, you find when they apply elections, people are still around each other wearing face masks just below their mouths even. And you just wonder what kind of a society. So we have a lot to do. We need to style up and we need to change. And I think when we change, we'll give ourselves an opportunity to grow. But there's a way the reckless abandon attitude we have needs to
change. That's true. Actually, we change will force you. If you don't change, my friend, you'll suffer the consequences. So I think that's a very great point. Maureen, do you have more questions streaming in? I know we are heading to the top of the hour.
Yeah, we are almost concluding. There's a question. Considering that in Faulu Bank, we lend to Chamas. This one member of Faulu who is asking in groups, how is Faulu Bank going to benefit through Malipo? Or rather, how is it going to make the community lending better? Eric.
As we have said before, of course, we are trying to continue this conversation with Faulu and to see how we can support the Chamas they already have within the bank and the ones they keep signing every year. And the idea is we want to give them the same accounting systems the bank enjoys, so the bank can easily lend to them, but they can also be able to manage within themselves and have Malipo integrated within the Faulu core banking system. So we'll have that discussion. We'll continue having it, and then we see how we can be able to launch it together in the market with Faulu. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Apollo, what do you have to say about this? The question.
Well, for me, I see partnerships evolve in different ways. And Eric, I'm sure part of why you're being asked the question is because we have our own digital platform that we use. And I think it's more, maybe you need to understand what we are doing and you see how can we integrate our systems together, because how do we get customers because for you are providing a platform. Those platform you create, how can we integrate with ours to see how we can do business better? So I think it's to say the conversations have begun. It's good we meet in a webinar. And I think it is to say that Japhet will look for Eric and then we sit together with our ICT team and see how do we integrate the systems, because the key thing nowadays is collaboration. It's not even competition. We need to collaborate more and more. And I think that there's a pool of customers they are serving, providing a platform, and we are a bank that has good products. So I believe there's a big opportunity for a handshake, and the two, we need to sit together outside of this webinar and see how do we create a handshake and benefit from the groups that you're providing a platform that need unique banking services. So that is where Maureen will ensure that we make this webinar real. Then we'll say this was a real investment of our time, but also an opportunity to grow each other's businesses.
Definitely collaboration, very important. Maureen. I think there's a latency right there.
Sorry, I've lost the last part. I didn't hear you clearly.
It's okay. Actually, Mr. Apollo has made a great point about collaboration. And I said, at the end of the day, even the people who are tuning in from all over the world, you have an opportunity to exchange ideas, because that is the foundation of growth in the society. I think it's important. Maybe just briefly, this is a question that's asking me, because Eric, you mentioned that you can give advisories to some of
Sorry,
these
sorry.
chamas. Can you get me, Maureen? Okay, a little bit of
Sorry,
latency,
no,
right?
I can't. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Okay. Yeah. So this is the question directed to Eric. In terms of advisory, you said you can give that to people who come on Malipo app. In regards to opportunities now that we've seen what has happened, I know Mr. Apollo mentioned the issue of digitization is big time. Yeah. Now businesses are moving towards that step. Even the government, now it has introduced the digital service tax because they're seeing potential there to extract value and taxation. So from where you sit, what are the prime areas that you think those who wish to invest in Chama setting can delve into and make a killing at this agent time?
I don't know about a killing, but I believe investments are to be built slowly. 180% returns is a very rare thing in investments. But my point is, I think the ecosystem we are building will provide more opportunities to invest, more opportunities to be guided through the process of investing, or just your day-to-day living. And the low-lying fruits are, of course, things like unit trusts, interest on deposits, as Apollo has said with Faulu, which seem to have very good interests, bonds, investing in mutual funds. I think those are the low-lying fruits that Chamas will now be able to invest in very easily through Malipo. They, of course, the ability to host themselves as a Chama and even charge for that service. If there are Chamas that are very good at what they do, invite other Chamas to co-invest in them, in investments that they find to be nice, whether they're buying land and they need to come together as 3 Chamas and put their capital together and own a property together. We'll be able to facilitate that kind of process for them. So it's a whole world that we are going to open up for Chamas. Buying out members of Chamas, maybe shares. We have a scenario where a Chamas invested in land and one of them wants to get out. The investment in land now has to be, I need capital. I want to get out for whatever reason. I have an emergency. I need 200,000 shillings now. But disposing of my shares is very difficult because the Chama is not liquid. The cash is tied in assets and all that. How then do we provide somebody who is able to buy that and join the Chama or provide some short-term loan? As Apollo says, that the property is the collateral. Then you're able to maybe buy your when you pay it back, you get your shares back. So it's a whole environment that we also trying to understand more and more as we build our solutions around it. We are not building things within our own imaginations. We try not to do that as much as possible. So that's why we keep engaging these Chamas, keep hearing what it is, their needs. Of course, we cannot address all of them. We address things that can scale. So we try to avoid addressing things that are only unique to particular people, but we still listen and see if we can be able to solve those problems. So as far as investments are concerned, yeah, I think I won't talk about killing, but I think the opportunity exists within that platform to gradually build your wealth, to gradually build your idea of a Chama. And if you're a young person, you have another 40 years of your life still ahead of you. So you can easily build wealth slowly through the Chama process. Because I think the biggest invention that was ever done is the ability to pool funds together in terms of capital. It's amazing. Everything else that you see is around the same process. The stock market is people just pulling together and put money for a company so that it can be able to manage those funds for them in whatever way they do. It is the same thing that has evolved and just been called more and more complicated things. Derivatives, asset classes. We just want to unlock those asset classes we've been able to invest in.
That's amazing. I apologize for my hyperbolized language of killing. I take that back. I'm not usually in the use of violent language. So Maureen, yes. I think I'll hand over to you.
Okay, as we wind up, because it's almost time to wind up. Mr. Apollo, your part in short.
Part in short is first to thank you for facilitating this session for us. And as we go different directions today, I want us to go and think about what is it we can do. But you can't give what you can. You can't give what you don't have. You can only be a good member of a circle because you have been able to first meet your needs. So I'd like to encourage us to go and think about just one or two things that we are going to change so that we have a better savings culture. By having a better savings culture will help you become a better member of a circle, because circles are about pooling resources. It's about you first creating some savings within your own space to be able to contribute more to your circle, because the more you're able to contribute, the bigger your chama will, the bigger you can contribute, and the bigger your chama can grow, and the more you can be able to benefit from all these offerings that we're talking about. So I just want you to leave this meeting with a lot of with a renewed commitment to go and change, because COVID has taught us. We have seen other banks grow their savings. Are your savings growing? Are you feeling you're at a more stronger position than you were 1 year ago? So really, that's my part in short, and to thank you again and to invite you and to extend a very warm invitation for you to consider joining Faulu. You come and work with us. We collaborate together and support and work together with the other colleagues on this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Apollo, for coming. We appreciate you. Eric, your parting shots.
Thank you very much, Maureen, Mr. Apollo, and Noah for putting this together, and all our attendees that have been able to attend and listen to us through the last 2 hours. We really appreciate your time. We are looking forward to serving you better. We're encouraging you to develop a saving culture, as Mr. Apollo has emphasized on. I think COVID has taught us the emphasis of that you need to have somewhere soft that you can land on when things get tough. But you also need people who can be able to support you through that process, and hence the idea of Chamas. So come together, be a responsible member of your Chama, contribute effectively, make use of Malipo to help you do that. It's reminders, features that reminds you when to save, so that you're not always late and you don't always forget. I think that is the most we can say about it for now. We'll keep engaging you. We are looking to build this community together with you people, make Chama a movement that can create bigger things. Our goal as Malipo is to at least have 1,000 Chamas in the next 10 years that have grown through Malipo and started businesses that employ the youth and create value in the system.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you for having us. Malipo, thank you for this partnership. Noah, thank you so much for being my co-host. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for our participants. And if you have any questions, you can still continue asking those questions directly to me on Facebook. We're also on Facebook Live, and also if you have, and also on Malipo app, you can Malipo Facebook page. Sorry, you can also continue asking those questions. You'll get the answers from there. My parting shot. Thank you so much, Mr. Apollo, for the insights. As young people, we need to consider saving more than spending more. Like you said, use the word mojoyo. Mojoyo is enjoying yourself. Like young people need to consider saving from a young age, so that by the time they are getting old, they'll have created a lot of wealth. Eric, thank you so much for providing this platform where people don't have any excuse. If they're not saving, then they're on their own. If they get stuck somewhere in life, you have provided them with the knowledge, Mr. Apollo and also Eric, that we need to start saving as early as now. Like we should have actually started like yesterday. Thank you so much, our panelists. I think we're going to end the meeting now. Noah, do you have anything else? Oh, Jaffer.
Yes, Maureen. Thank you. I also want to say thank you so much for organizing this. I think it's been an eye-opener, and I have made some requests to you. Eric, we need to speak. Let's take it beyond this webinar so that we can be able to really support the Chamas and see how we can be able to grow together. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Sorry, I had internet connection issues, but the discussion was awesome. It was so educative. Thank you.
You threatened to show us a video. There's a video you threatened to show us.
Yes. Let me share the screen.
Make the threats come alive now.
Right now.
Play the video. I see Victor Muga saying that thanks. It has been quite educating and mind-changing. Thank you very much, Victor, for tuning into this discussion. And as you've said, we shall have more of this. When me being part of media, I think it's one of the big conversations that we need to push out there, how we can transform the Chama culture and make it better, and push also the savings culture within Kenyans. So thank you very much, Victor, for that feedback. We appreciate. Well, there seems to be a little bit of a challenge sharing the video. I think it's something that can be worked on, but
yes,
Mr. Apollo, the threat still stands.
No, it's all right, Maureen. I'm sure next time you'll be able to share it, or you can, and we'll be able to. It's a reason for us to meet again.
Definitely.
There it is.
Social, which is the primary source, which has become Chamas. It's about money and productive use.
Yeah, that was meant to be played at the beginning of the webinar, but it's okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
I
it.
got to play it. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maureen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So the meeting is over, but we are still going to continue having this conversation even after this. Yeah, we will reach out to Eric and Mr. Apollo for more partnerships. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
much.
Thank you so much, and nice weekend. Bye.
Okay. You too, thanks.
Thank you. Maureen, uko sawa?